Welcome, everyone, to a story that shook the world, a tale of power, controversy, and an unprecedented comeback. This is the fall and rise of the Trump era. Picture this, a billionaire businessman turned politician, a man who defied every expectation, stormed into the White House in 2017, only to face a whirlwind of chaos, division, and an eventual fall. But just when you thought the story was over, he rose again, reclaiming the presidency in 2025. How did this happen? What drove the fall of Donald Trump's first term, and what fueled his triumphant return? In this deep dive, we'll unravel the Trump era, its highs, its lows, and the seismic shifts it brought to America and the world. From his polarizing policies to the cultural battles that defined his time, we'll explore the forces that led to his 2021 exit and the momentum that brought him back 4 years later. Buckle up, because this is a roller coaster of history, politics, and raw human ambition. Let's dive into the fall and the rise of the Trump era. Let's rewind to 2015. The American political landscape was a predictable machine, career politicians, polished speeches, and a system that seemed untouchable. Then came Donald J. Trump, a New York real estate mogul and reality TV star, announcing his run for president. People laughed. The media called it a stunt. But Trump wasn't joking. He tapped into something raw, a deep frustration among millions of Americans who felt ignored by the elite. His message was simple: I'm not a politician. I'm a builder. I'll make America great again. Trump's 2016 campaign was a wildfire. He spoke directly to the heart of the working class, promising to bring back jobs, secure the borders, and drain the so-called swamp in Washington. His rallies were electric, thousands waving American flags, chanting his name, united by a shared belief that America needed a radical change. He didn't mince words, calling out opponents with nicknames like Crooked Hillary and slamming the media as fake news. It was unorthodox, brash, and polarizing, but it worked. On November 8, 2016, Trump won the presidency, defeating Hillary Clinton in a stunning upset. When he took office in January 2017, Trump wasted no time. He slashed regulations, pushed for a massive tax cut, the largest in U.S. history, and pulled out of international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He renegotiated NAFTA, replacing it with the USMCA, a deal he touted as a win for American workers. His supporters cheered as he delivered on promises to prioritize America first. But his style, unfiltered and combative, also sparked fierce opposition. Protests erupted. Critics called him divisive, accusing him of stoking racial and cultural tensions. The media clashed with him daily, and the investigations began, from Russian election interference to his business dealings. Trump's presidency was a lightning rod. He reshaped the judiciary, appointing 3 Supreme Court justices and hundreds of federal judges, cementing a conservative legacy that would last decades. He took a hard stance on immigration, pushing for a border wall with Mexico, a promise that became a symbol of his administration, even as it faced legal and political hurdles. Globally, he took on China with tariffs, aiming to rebalance trade, but it sparked a trade war that left some American farmers struggling. His foreign policy was a mix of bold moves, like brokering the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, and controversies, like his handling of North Korea and Iran. By 2019, Trump's approval ratings were a roller coaster, hovering around 40%, but his base remained unshakable. They saw him as a fighter, someone who stood up to the establishment and spoke for them. But the cracks were starting to show. The Mueller investigation into Russian interference loomed large, and in December 2019, Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress over his dealings with Ukraine. The Senate acquitted him, but the damage to his image was done. As 2020 approached, Trump seemed poised for re-election, until the world turned upside down. 2020 was the year that broke the Trump presidency. It started with a global pandemic, COVID-19. The virus swept across the world, and the U.S. was hit hard. Trump's response became a defining moment of his first term, and for many, a catastrophic failure. He downplayed the virus early on, famously saying it would disappear and suggesting unproven treatments like hydroxychloroquine. His administration struggled to coordinate a national response, leaving states to fend for themselves. The economy tanked, unemployment soared, and by the end of 2020, over 400,000 Americans had died from the virus. Trump's handling of the pandemic drew sharp criticism. His daily briefings were a mix of defiance and misinformation, alienating even some of his supporters. Meanwhile, the racial justice movement erupted after the killing of George Floyd in May 2020. Protests swept the nation, with Black Lives Matter becoming a global rallying cry. Trump's response, calling for law and order and deploying federal forces to cities, deepened the divide. Critics accused him of inflaming tensions, while his base saw him as a defender of stability. As the 2020 election approached, Trump faced Joe Biden, a veteran politician promising unity and competence. The campaign was brutal. Trump held packed rallies, defying COVID restrictions, while Biden campaigned cautiously, often virtually. Trump claimed the election was rigged months before a single vote was cast, sowing doubt in the democratic process. On November 3, 2020, Biden won, securing 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. Trump refused to concede, launching a barrage of lawsuits and alleging widespread voter fraud, claims that were repeatedly debunked by courts and election officials. The final blow came on January 6, 2021. Trump held a rally in Washington, D.C., urging supporters to fight like hell to stop the certification of Biden's victory. What followed was chaos. A mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, resulting in violence, destruction, and 5 deaths. The nation watched in horror as the heart of American democracy was attacked. Trump was impeached a second time for incitement of insurrection, becoming the first president in history to be impeached twice. The Senate acquitted him again, but his political future seemed over. On January 20, 2021, Trump left office, retreating to Mar-a-Lago. In his farewell address, he reflected on his achievements, tax cuts, deregulation, and a strong economy before the pandemic, but the Capitol riot cast a long shadow. He spoke of unity, saying, "We must unify around our shared values and rise above the partisan rancor," but the words rang hollow to many after years of division. Trump's critics celebrated his exit, hoping the Trump era was finished. His supporters, however, remained loyal, believing he'd been cheated out of a second term. The stage was set for an improbable comeback. From 2021 to 2024, Trump was out of office but never out of the spotlight. He faced multiple legal battles, investigations into his business practices, tax fraud allegations, and the fallout from January 6. Yet, he remained the most influential figure in the Republican Party. He endorsed candidates, held rallies, and kept his base energized with promises of a return. The GOP was fractured, some wanted to move on from Trump, but his grip on the party was ironclad. Candidates he backed often won primaries, proving his enduring influence. Meanwhile, the Biden administration struggled. Inflation soared, the Afghanistan withdrawal in 2021 was a disaster, and cultural battles over issues like education and immigration deepened the nation's divide. Many Americans felt the country was on the wrong track, and Trump capitalized on that discontent. He began teasing a 2024 run early, saying in interviews, "I know the people, I know the good, the bad, the stupid, the smart." His message hadn't changed: America first, anti-establishment, and a promise to fix what he called Biden's disaster. Trump's 2024 campaign was a juggernaut. He dominated the Republican primaries, defeating challengers like Ron DeSantis with ease. His rallies were bigger than ever, drawing tens of thousands. He leaned into economic issues, promising to tackle inflation and bring back manufacturing jobs. He also doubled down on immigration, vowing to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, a policy that worried economists but resonated with his base. The general election against Kamala Harris, who replaced Biden as the Democratic nominee, was a clash of visions. Trump painted Harris as a radical leftist, she called him a threat to democracy. On November 5, 2024, Trump won, securing a second non-consecutive term, an unprecedented feat in modern American history. His victory speech was triumphant: "Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed." The Trump era, it seemed, was back with a vengeance. Trump's second term began on January 20, 2025, with a bold inaugural address. He declared, "We are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success, promising to lead America to new heights." He spoke of planting the American flag on Mars, conquering science, and building the freest, most advanced, most dynamic civilization in history. It was vintage Trump, grandiose, optimistic, and unapologetically ambitious. His first 100 days were a blitz of action. Trump moved quickly to implement his campaign promises, issuing executive orders to tighten border security and roll back Biden-era climate policies. He pushed for new tax cuts, arguing they would stimulate the economy, though critics warned of inflation. He also revived his focus on infrastructure, promising to rebuild cities like Detroit and create jobs. Internationally, he took a hard line on China, imposing new tariffs, and pressured NATO allies to increase defense spending. But Trump's return wasn't without challenges. His deportation plan sparked protests and legal battles. The economy, still recovering from inflation, showed mixed results. Job growth was steady, but rising interest rates squeezed the middle class. Trump's rhetoric remained divisive. His critics accused him of authoritarian tendencies, especially after he suggested loyalty tests for appointees. Yet his base remained fiercely loyal, seeing him as the leader America needed to restore its greatness. Culturally, the Trump era 2.0 deepened the nation's divide. Social media platforms like X became battlegrounds for competing narratives. Trump's policies on education, pushing for patriotic curriculums, ignited debates over free speech and history. His administration's stance on transgender rights and abortion further polarized the country. Protests and counter-protests became a regular feature of American life, with cities like Portland and Minneapolis seeing clashes between activists and law enforcement. On the global stage, Trump's second term was a mix of confrontation and diplomacy. He took a hard stance on Iran, vowing to stop their nuclear ambitions, and continued to support Israel, even as tensions in the Middle East flared. His speech at the World Economic Forum in January 2025, delivered via teleconference, signaled a return to America First policies, with a focus on economic nationalism. Yet he also sought to broker new trade deals, aiming to position the U.S. as the world's economic leader. By March 2025, Trump addressed a joint session of Congress, proclaiming, "America's momentum is back. Our spirit is back. Our pride is back." He touted his early achievements, new trade deals, a booming stock market, and a renewed focus on space exploration. But challenges loomed. The cultural war showed no signs of abating, and economic uncertainty persisted. Trump's vision of a golden age of America was bold, but could he deliver? As we stand here in April 2025, the Trump era is still unfolding, but its impact is undeniable. Trump has reshaped American politics, exposing deep divides while galvanizing a movement that refuses to fade. His policies, on immigration, trade, and the judiciary, will shape the nation for decades. His tax cuts and deregulation spurred economic growth for some, but critics argue they widened inequality. His foreign policy, a mix of isolationism and assertive nationalism, redefined America's role in the world. The Trump era also revealed the power of personality in politics. Trump's unfiltered style, his ability to connect with millions through rallies and social media, changed how leaders communicate. He showed that authenticity, however raw, could resonate more than polished rhetoric. But it came at a cost. The division he deepened may take years to heal. The Capitol riot of 2021 remains a scar on the nation's psyche, a reminder of how fragile democracy can be. What's next for the Trump era? Trump's second term is still in its early days, but the stakes are high. Can he deliver on his promises of prosperity and unity, or will the same forces that led to his first fall, division, controversy, and resistance, derail him again? One thing is certain, Trump's story is far from over. Love him or hate him, he's a force that can't be ignored.